tremendously heavy pull right here. What we're trying to do today is we're talking about how to elevate our strongman performance without actually doing traditional strongman movements. So utilizing the basic principles of strength training and getting after it. Welcome to HarvestingStrength.com. Alright, hey guys, welcome to HarvestingStrength.com. Right now we're going to do the third video, which is event training, kind of wrapping it all together. So we're going to show you some movements that have been in competition, whether it's the loading with the stones, log pressing clean, different variation of movements. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to show you how to train for those movements without having that equipment or having the outlet to do that equipment. So let's look at the videos, let's break it down, and then see how you can train strongman without strongman. Alright, so right here we're seeing a typical movement you'll see at a strongman event. Right here we're doing the loading movements. So with this loading movement right here, we're taking something from the ground like the stone and loading it, or in this case moving it over the bar and working it for several reps. So working this movement, you can see right here, is pretty unique. It's kind of hard to replicate necessarily through traditional barbell movements, but we're going to make it work. And we're going to show you right here how to make that happen. So when we bring ourselves to the gym right here, we're talking about the Zercher pull, Zercher squat, however you want to terminize it. The Zercher just means right here that it's in the elbows. Now, when he starts the pull, it's not necessarily in his elbow crease, but we want to get it in there because what happens is if it's not within that elbow crease, now you're starting to work the lower arm and starting to trigger the biceps more. But we don't want to trigger the biceps, we just want to trigger that low hip placement and getting things rocking. Now, right here he pauses underneath, and this could be a little modification for people with bad hips. He's doing this right here to get deep, get his hips in a good placement. He's got his the bar in the crease of his elbows, and he's again replicating that loading motion that you would whenever you pull that stone off the ground. So it's kind of a fun little variation to kind of get things rocking. Now the isometric row, right here, he pulls the weight off the ground and then he's pulling it against the bench. Right here, the isometric means it's motionless, but that doesn't mean that he's not pulling with a really strong pull. So whenever he pulls against the bench, it's isometric, and it kind of helps in the sense of like keeping that stone close to his body and having good, strong back muscles. So again, it's just working the back, but with a little bit of a variation and modification. Now, whenever you see someone loading the weight off the ground, they start off with the pull, and then they're pulling it to their body with bent arms. I kind of see this not only with the stone movement, but also when we look at the overhead press here in a second. So the concept of this row right here is he pulls dead weight off the ground, and then as he gets closer to his hips, he rows it in. And you'll kind of see it right here when we look at the overhead. So he pulls it off the ground, bends his arms, and brings it close to his body. Right here, what we're going to start working on and talking about is the overhead event. So right here, it could be an overhead event where it's the axle bar, it could be a log, it could be a few things, but just getting that overhead press situated, there's a couple variables we need to discuss. One of them being the hips right here. So he gets it past his hips and pops it off, and then gets it underneath. We're going to talk about some traditional strength movements that we can do to incorporate to help with that kind of mindset. So right here, the rack cleans. His rack position isn't necessarily something we see with Olympic movements, but as you can see right here, he gets triple extension. He pushes his hips through, and now we can start to see how it correlates to his overhead press, where he gets the bar up to his chest, and then he can overhead. Just focusing on the rack clean can help with the triple extension, something we talked about in that part 2 phase of my videos as well. Now the log press, I like to do this movement for the log press because right here with this hammer grip overhead press, what's happening is the grip is different because with a log, your hands are neutral. So now you're starting to incorporate those back arms a little bit more. You're still working the shoulders, the delts, but just that variation of switching your grip is going to make a big difference. And the dumbbells kind of help with that stabilization as well. So that's kind of a fun one that could be an accessory to your log day. And then close grip floor press. The close grip, okay, and the floor press, it limits the range of motion. And right here, we're just really working those back arms and the triceps. I know that it's not overhead, but that can give you a break with your shoulders and starting to really hit the triceps to get some good momentum underneath. And then the last thing we're going to talk about is the pull. Right here, we're talking about that deadlift pull, whether it's pulling off these frames, pulling a deadlift bar. We're just going to talk about how to train for that through basic strength principles. So right here we got the trap bar. We're doing a deadlift. It's kind of like we talked about with the log press, that neutral grip. When you deadlift, the bar's in front, so since the weight's displaced in front, now we're talking about hitting the posterior chain, the hamstrings, the glutes real hard. But now with that neutral grip, you can pull the bar a little bit more within your center of gravity, and now we're talking about a little bit more of a quad dominant movement. So that's important to use that style as well. Now, to maybe vary between your programming, 1 week you could do trap bar deadlifts, 1 week you can do traditional deadlifts, just to work different parts of the body with how the weight's displaced. Adding a band, that'll be a nice modification too, because when you see the band up top, it's real tight and tense, meaning that it's is adding weight as you come up. So that can help you with either the speed component on doing it faster and just trying to learn how to fight through your sticking point, or it could be where you load heavy and just learn how to lock out heavier. But sometimes when we do these deadlifts, you don't see people deadlifting from that lower position. You actually see them deadlifting from a higher position sometimes when they use those 18-inch wheels. So doing a rack pull right here is another variation of the deadlift, to where you can work from a higher placement, and since that limited range of motion exists, maybe you can load some more weight and it can add to your other types of deadlifting as well. So that's it, guys. We've done 3 parts. We talked about training strongman without strongman. A lot of the stuff I do on my website just really works on content and giving out knowledge and information. So please visit my website, harvestingstrength.com. Let's get a conversation going, and let's have some fun. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.